Hello! Welcome to this week's video. For today, I am doing my wrap-up for the month of May on this very, very hot beginning of June. Went out. It is broiling. So came home and took a glorious cold shower. So I want to keep that cool feeling still with me. So we're doing this now. Not even waiting for my hair to dry. Um, so we got two books that I read and enjoyed, and two books that I DNF'd. Both of them were Audible, but I got further in one than I did with another. I guess we'll just get the DNFs out of the way first. So, again, not finding luck with Audible, but encouraged because one of them I actually stuck with almost towards the end. But we'll talk about the first one that I pretty much DNF'd in the first chapter, and it was Kristen Ashley's Breathe. And the reason that I DNF'd this one very quickly was we have a heroine named, I think her name was Faith, and she was a curvy heroine. Curvy. I put that in brackets because I always am skeptical when they write curvy heroines, because it usually just means big boobs and an ass. You know my thoughts on this. Big boobs and an ass does not constitute curvy. But I feel a little encouraged that this was an actual like curvy heroine with a tummy and with like thick thighs and thick arms, because of, and it's also the reason that I DNF'd it because of something that the hero did. The hero is a piece of crap who is, I believe, a cop. I don't remember what his name is. Don't care. And he had been married to a woman who apparently slept around, and the woman had been murdered. And he's walking through the area where she had been murdered, I guess the crime scene, even though it had been a while and they hadn't caught, I don't think, who did it. And then he sees the heroine walking through that same area. And he has been attracted to the heroine and has feelings for her, but of course, he can't, he doesn't want to give into those feelings because, for the reason that his wife was apparently a dirty whore, this must mean that all women are dirty whores, and he can't give in to his feelings for them because he can't trust them. But he does have feelings for her, supposedly, and he thinks that it's very dangerous for her to be in that area, and for her to, he knows that she has feelings for him, so he wants to dissuade her from having those feelings. So he tells her to get her fat ass away from out of the woods. To get her fat ass away from him. And that's when I DNF the book. Because I can deal with alpha holes, but to do that to a woman when you know that she likely has issues about her body. She likely has, and I think we read this, that she has feelings for him, but she sort of, thinks that like he could never be attracted to her and blah 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 and all that stuff. For him to do that to her, I wanted him to frickin' die. I wanted him to die. I had no interest in following this man who would say that to another woman or to a woman. Nope. No, thank you. Just let me fix this bit. Yeah, no. I was just horrified and just disgusted that this was supposed to be our hero. Because later on, I'm assuming that they were going to give into their feelings for each other, have a relationship, fall in love, all this. I'm supposed to trust my heart to you. I'm supposed to be intimate with you and be open with you. When you insulted me in such a personal manner, like, how is she supposed to forget that he said that to her? Like, oh, I love you, I want to be with you so much. You called me fat. No. No, that would never work for me. Ever. So I DNF'd that one. The next Audible that I got further into, but also ended up DNFing very close to the end, but I just couldn't anymore, is Sarah Arden's Return to Glory. And I kept with this one so long, not for the love story, because the love story did not work for me, but because I really liked how the author portrayed a soldier's PTSD. I thought that was really well done. Now, I'm saying this, me, as somebody who has never served, has never experienced the horrors of war, but based on what I've read and what I've seen, I think Sarah Arden did a really good job with the PTSD aspect of this story. The romance story, not so much. Because we have Betsy, and I can't remember what the hero's name is again. Was it James? Jack? J-Hero was served in the war, but before he went, they sort of all like grew up together, and she had always been in love with him, and the night before he left, she makes him promise her, like she wants to give herself to him, but he can't because, oh, he's best friends with her brother and he can't do the sister and blah, 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 and you know, that whole thing. So he turns her down, but she makes him promise that he will come back to her to sort of, not so much because she wants to be with him, because she does, but because she wants to make sure that he comes back alive. And if he has that promise hanging over him, then he will do everything that he can to come back alive. And he goes off to war and is injured, loses his leg, and is very broken, and almost angry at her for making him make that promise to come back to her. So all, like, you know, great setup. But it's like he comes back and he's all like depressed and, of course, you know, just shattered, you know, as like in body and spirit, and Betsy is like, wants to fix him, as it were. And I think the mistake that this book makes is that they have sex almost as soon as he comes back. And like I just I and he comes to like depend on her, and so and she's like working with him to sort of get him, out of his depression, and like, trying to like help him, get over this horrific thing that he's endured. And with like, little things of like, come over for dinner, and like just like be around people, and like don't shut yourself off, and all that stuff. And even convinces him to go to therapy. Put a pin in that. Um, and so they're together, but he's still struggling. And the first time that I kind of went, uh, I don't know if this is going to work for me, is when Betsy is talking to, I think it's her friend India, who also served in the war and who's in love with Betsy's brother Caleb. Sequel bait, I'm assuming. Um, and India is talking to her, and something had like she and the hero had like fought about something. Betsy and the hero had fought about something, and um, India basically said, "Are you sure that that you actually love him, that you're in love with him, or that you're just uh, sort of hung up on the boy that you had a crush on, and now you just want to fix him?" And Betsy doubts, like she says, like she thinks to herself, like she doesn't like how sort of like that question made her feel, as if it was hitting close to the truth. And I thought, wait, so you're not actually in love with him? And you are just trying to fix him? I. Wait, what? So you're having all this sex with him and being like intimate with him. And again, I could totally understand two friends being like frat buddies and then it becoming more. I could totally understand that. But not when you give us the setup of she's been in love with him since she was a teenager, and and then he goes off to war and comes back, and they start having sex right away, and then you turn it around that maybe she's not actually in love with him and is just trying to fix him. Okay. But I kept going because I was like, you know what? I want to see sort of how, maybe she does like admit like her feelings for him or what have you, and maybe this does like turn a corner or what have you. But fine. So and I was really enjoying the PTSD part of it. So I was like, let's keep going. Um, then they're having sex. She's convinced him that he should go to group therapy, and actually is seeing a psychiatrist, uh, like one-on-one therapy on top of that, which I thought was really, really good. Uh, but then they have another fight because he has a flashback in the middle of when they're having sex, and is so horrified by things that he's keeping from her that she doesn't know, that come back to the surface for him, and he pushes her away. Um, and so they're like not together for a while. And Then he finds out that an ex-boyfriend of hers, an ex-chef boyfriend of hers, has returned to town and wants her to come to Paris with him, not as like a couple, but to give her another chance at a dream that she's had of going to culinary school in Paris and becoming a professional chef. Because she failed at that the first time for something that happened, and then she ended up coming back to her small town and opening a bakery. Uh, but supposedly she'd always had that dream of, making it as a chef. So the ex-boyfriend comes back, and she has this opportunity to go. So of course, the hero is going to be all self-sacrificing and wants her to chase her dream and be happy. And so, of course, he's going to sacrifice his own happiness and basically tell her that he doesn't want to be with her so that she will go to Paris. And he's trying to tell her that, she should give herself another chance and, she has a chance to be happy and like really fulfill her dreams. And she says to him, save that self-help crap for your group therapy sessions. Basically, throwing it in his face that he's in therapy. I was done with her at that point. I wanted her to get hit by a bus at that point because how dare you? Knowing what that man had been through and how hard he was fighting to get past it, to throw that in his face that way? I was horrified. And thinking about it now, I don't know why I didn't stop reading the book then. But again, I was interested in his journey, the hero's journey. Her, I wanted her to get hit by a fucking bus. I wanted her to fucking die. But everybody is telling her, go to Paris, go to Paris. And she's being all like mad at everybody. Like, all these people are like trying to tell me what decisions to make and trying to run my life and doing what they, trying to tell me what to do and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, then when the hero basically dumps her and is like, go to Paris and blah, blah. And then, so she's like, oh, screw you, I am going to go to Paris and blah, blah, blah. So she goes to Paris. And this is when I DNF'd the book. Because she was horrible and annoyed with like everybody around her for telling her that she should go follow her dream. So she's in Paris and she is like she has a complete 180 and decides, oh, I love it here. And oh, this is so what I should be doing. And oh, now I'm torn that should I go back to my life or should I maybe I should follow this chance and maybe I shouldn't have thrown a tantrum and had maybe the people around me that they did just want me to be happy and all that. And I was done. I was done with her ass because she is having all these feelings like, oh, the people around me, they were right. I do belong here to give myself another chance. And I was like, bitch, what you said to the man you supposedly love and how you behaved with your family and your friends, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, they were right. I shouldn't have behaved that way. And oh, I don't even think that she said that she shouldn't have behaved that way. I think she was like, oh, they were right. It's so beautiful here. I do have a chance to fulfill my dream. And I was done. No. I was like, I gave this book chance after chance, and I just could not tolerate the heroine anymore. Yeah, no. Nope, nope, nope. So that was my two audibles that did not work, unfortunately. But I got further. But I was encouraged with Return to Glory just because I was sort of enjoying parts of the story, and if it wasn't for the heroine, I would have perfectly enjoyed that story. Just just how she threw it in his. I could not believe that she threw in his face that he was in therapy. No, just no. Um, so the two books that I did finish were Rainbow Valley by Lucy Maud Montgomery, and liked it, loved it, but I felt like this this shouldn't have been part of the Anne of Green Gables sort of universe. She should have taken the Meredith children storyline, which is 75% of this book, and wrote it as a separate book about just the Meredith children. Because the Anne of Green Gables, the Anne and her children bit was maybe 25% of this book. So I love, don't get me wrong. It's the structure of this book that didn't work for me. I loved the Meredith children story, and I loved the Anne and her children story, of course. My Precious Walter was freaking the best. He is like the preciousest boy. He was all like into like daydreaming and like reading and writing poetry, and he was like this shy little boy, and then this bully makes fun of one of the Meredith children, Faith, and Walter is there and wants to stick up for her, so he agrees to a fight with this boy, and he's like all like scared about it because he's not a fighter. He's a shy little boy, but he whoops the bully's ass. And it was wonderful. I loved it so much. I loved his sort of little story so much. And then you get the larger story with the Meredith children and their father John, who is the preacher, who was it like 5 children, and he is a widow, and he develops feelings for this woman called Rosemary West, who has a sister named Ellen, who I despised with every fiber of my being, because Rosemary falls in love with John and wants to be with John, but can't be with John because she and Ellen lived together. And when their mother died, Ellen makes Rosemary promise her that she will never leave her because Ellen doesn't want to grow old alone. Because Ellen had this beau a long time ago. Norman Douglas put a pin in him, and they broke up. I ran out of room there, so let's pick up where we left off. I think I was talking about Ellen West. So Ellen doesn't want to be an old maid, so she makes Rosemary promise her that Rosemary will never get married and leave her. Now, Rosemary's fiance had died at sea or something, so she was grieving, and so she figured, I will never love again, so yeah, I will make this promise. This is not a hard promise because I will never love again. So she promises her sister Ellen that she will never leave her, never get married and leave her to live alone. Well, then she falls in love with John Meredith. And John Meredith proposes to her. And Rosemary remembers her promise and tells him that, give her some time and she will give him an answer. Because she wants to marry him, but she has this promise. So she goes to her sister. She goes to Ellen and tells her that John Meredith proposed and that she wants to marry John. And will she please let her off the hook with the promise? And Ellen basically guilts her into not being off the hook. Ellen makes her feel horrible about wanting to break her promise. So Rosemary, brokenheartedly, turns John down and breaks his heart. And then Norman Douglas comes back and starts pursuing Ellen. And Ellen decides that maybe she will give him another chance. And she tells Rosemary that now she wants to marry Norman Douglas and apparently be let out of this promise that they had made to each other, that sisters had made to each other. And Rosemary was way nicer about it than I would have been. And it's sort of like she doesn't want to be like angry and bitter at her sister, but she is, but she sort of doesn't show it. I would have been so mad. Like, she goes and she's like, Ellen is like, yay, see, you can go and marry John Meredith now, see? Because I'm gonna go and be happy. And then Rosemary's like, bitch, what are you smoking? I just broke that man's heart. Do you think he's gonna want me back? Thankfully, we have one of the Meredith children, little Una, who realizes that John is still in love with Rosemary and convinces Rosemary to go and sort of tell John that she does want to be with him. And that's all like lovely and happy. But that sister, Ellen, oh my God. The way that she was all set to ruin her sister's life until it became convenient for her to let her sister be happy. I wanted Ellen to frickin' get hit by a bus. A lot of heroines, well, Ellen was not a heroine, do not get it twisted. A lot of characters in this wrap-up that I wanted to get hit by buses. So, so overall, I liked it, but I felt like the structure of it didn't work for me. Like, there, again, still like some beautiful lines, but I just felt like the Meredith children should have had their own book. And we should have kept the focus on Anne and Gilbert and their children um, for in like this continuation of the series. So yeah, um, and finally, I finished this banana sandwich book. Shayna by Kathleen E. Woodiwiss. Now we have Shayna, the heroine, and Rourke. Shayna needs to get married, but she doesn't want her father to pick for her, so she decides that she's going to. She has to get married, but she doesn't want to give up her like independence. So she decides that she's going to find the easiest husband, somebody who's going to be executed. So that way that she can, get married, have the name, have the independence of widows, because we all know that widows have more independence than married women in this time. So we get Rourke, who has been, he says, falsely accused of killing a woman, but he's going to be executed. And Shayna convinces him to marry her before he dies. And he agrees because he wants like one last sort of good thing before he dies. So she promises that she's going to be with him for one night and play the full like wife role and sleep with him and blah blah blah. Fully intending to not honor her part of the bargain. So Shayna, not the, not the most honorable of heroines, but okay. But so they make over Rourke, and he's all like hot sauce, and Shayna feels a disturbance in the force, and the attraction is very much mutual, and so they get married, and they're on their way to what he thinks is the inn, but what she has conspired to arrange that he's going to get taken back to his jail cell without her having to give up her virginity. But the attraction between them is so strong that they actually end up doing it in the coach. But right when Shayna has like given in, they're set upon by the guards who take him out, and he is like aware that she betrayed him. So she feels like a little bit guilty about it, but she's like, well, I had to do what I had to do, and now I can go and live my life as a widow. Put a pin in that, because Rourke ends up not so much dying. He gets taken out of the prison, and like switched with like another body is like sent, like claimed to be his, and he, because this slave owner guy Ralston, or servant trader Ralston, wants to pays the warden to take sort of the prisoners and use them on like different like plantations and stuff, and so Rourke gets taken and is a very good worker, and all this time he's like vowing vengeance against Shayna for her betrayal, but of course he can't forget that like he's still like in love with her, and so gradually he makes his way to Shayna's father's plantation and doesn't tell the father what he and Shayna were up to, but is constantly threatening that he will tell the father. But he doesn't, because he's got a good deal there at the plantation, and he actually likes Shayna's father, but he's constantly tormenting her. So finally she's like, I'm gonna get this guy off my back and just give him his one night that I promised, and repair my betrayal of him. So they do, And of course, the feelings between them like just grow stronger. But Shayna is very sort of spoiled, and she doesn't want. She thinks, oh, that her feelings for him make her weak, and she doesn't want to like give in to this man's power over her. So when there's this girl Millie who wants her some Rourke, and so Shayna is like very jealous, thinking that like Rourke is going to be with this Millie girl, and thinks that he was with this Millie girl. So in revenge, she has him sort of kidnapped and put on a ship. But then the pirates that kidnapped sort of him end up kidnapping her, and he's sort of the only one that can like save her from these like evil pirates. So they're saved by Rourke rescues them from the evil pirates, and there's like this Captain Nathaniel, who has like the same last name as Rourke, and then they're the feelings between Rourke and Shayna like grow, and it's like lovely, and they start like admitting their feelings for each other, and then Shayna meets this Nathaniel Beecham person, this captain, and the rest of his family, and it's discovered that Shayna finds out that Rourke is actually a part of this family. And so she is like mad that Rourke lied to her, but he's like, I wanted to make sure that like you loved me for me and not my money and blah blah blah. And even though like I was not in like the best of straits because of like I was falsely accused of murder and all this stuff. The murder that he was falsely accused of. So there's that guy Ralston who bought him out of prison, or somehow so got him like out of the prison to serve the thing. And he was always like pissed off at the fact that Shayna's father treated Rourke so well. So he had convinced this guy, Gaylord, the most unfortunate name, Gaylord Billingham, to court Shayna, and her dowry, that Gaylord would split it with Ralston. And so Ralston was really a piece of shit. Gaylord, he didn't come off as a piece of shit. He was just this annoying dandy who kept sniffing around Shayna. And this is why the ending did not necessarily work for me. Millie ends up dead. And I'm going to spoil the ending for y'all. Millie ends up dead. And scratched next to her body is supposedly the initial R, which is supposed to lead people to believe that it was Rourke that killed her, like he supposedly killed the first woman in the inn. So my thought is it was Ralston, because clearly we know it wasn't Rourke because he's the hero and he was falsely accused. And then the woman that he was supposedly falsely accused of killing, her husband shows up, and apparently she and him were running this scam where they were like stealing from people at the inn, and then she ended up dead. And apparently it was discovered that the person, again, if you don't want to know, I think I'll put like a timestamp thing of like when I'm gonna spoil it when the spoilers is to when it ends. The person who supposedly killed both the girl at the inn and Millie or Mindy, Millie is Gaylord Billingham, and that the name scratched in the sand wasn't an R, but a B, because Millie couldn't write that well. Nope. Should have been Ralston. It should have been Ralston. Because, like, Gaylord being the killer just sort of came out of nowhere. And if you're gonna do a twist, there has to be the seeds of, like, the reader should be able to, like, oh my god, how did I never notice that before? Or no, there was none of that. All the seeds were there for Ralston to be the killer, but it felt like the ending, they just wanted it to be like such a surprise that, oh wow, what a twist. It wasn't who you thought it was this person. No, that would have been a good twist if we could go back and see things that we'd never noticed. About it being Gaylord. Just no, nothing about his personality screamed like murderer. Like he was like this dandy who was just like around Shayna. So, and a spoiler for that. So I liked this book very, very much. The ending just felt a little flat to me, but I loved the romance part of like Rourke and Shayna. So that's what I read. What am I reading? What am I going to start reading? For my regular Take to Work book, I will be reading V.C. Andrews, Christopher's Diary, Secrets of Foxworth. Now, I know about the thing in this book. And I know that a lot of people, and I believe that I am going to be one of those people, are not happy about the thing in this book. But I'm curious enough to want to read this book to see how the thing comes about and how it's explained with the rest of the Flowers in the Attic universe. I'm curious enough to read it, even though I know a lot of people are furious about it, and I will likely be furious about it as well. So that's that reading my Take to Work book. And my classic that I will be starting, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I think this will be my first sort of actual like Dickens. I've tried Dickens before when I was younger, but I think maybe I was too young to sort of appreciate it, because it just felt like he would describe every leaf on every tree, every piece of furniture in a room. That's what Dickens always read to me. Maybe now that I'm older, I will be able to sort of be immersed in it a bit more and appreciate the writing a bit more. I don't know. We shall see how it goes. So that's the classic that we're reading. So that is going to be it for this week. Let me know if you've read any of these books and sort of what you thought of them. And yeah, follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/authorejamie. Like my Facebook page at facebook.com/authorejamie. And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!